The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline, of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam. Sam, the Suns are
It's
1
over.
and 2. How you doing?
It's so over. No, I'm just kidding. I'm good. I honestly am good. I think I said previously that I had to watch the games this weekend on replay, and so I fulfilled my obligation and watched them on replay. A couple of tough
I'm
losses.
sure that was really fun, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's never like super fun, but you just kind of put the more analytical glasses on, I guess, and like think less about. I mean, let's be honest. They weren't suspenseful games to begin with. So like even if you were watching live, as I know you did, so it's all right. I still got plenty to talk about out of it, and like just in case people are actually worried, as I think maybe some people are. First of all, maybe you need to check your expectations of where they were in the first place, but also like I'm not especially worried about this team. These were as close to 2 scheduled losses as it gets, of playing a back-to-back on the road against the expected 2nd and 3rd seeds, or 3rd and 4th seeds. In the Western
Probably
Conference.
top 5 or 6 teams in the NBA, right? Like Denver might be the second best team in the NBA this year. I think most likely that's the case. And then the Clippers, I don't know where they're going to be, but I think if they're healthy, which they were in this game, probably top 5. They have a chance to be really, really good. And then Denver on the second night of a back-to-back at altitude, that's the toughest thing to do in the NBA.
Without your starting center, too. Now.
Without your starting center, without Jalen Green, too, which we're going to talk about both of those guys and how they impact the team going forward. But yeah, let's start with the expectation things, because that's a good place to start, I think. If you look at the first 4 games, there's a 3-game road trip, right? There's the first game against Sacramento. There's the 3-game road trip. I think if you just looked at the season to start and said, okay, Sacramento, Clippers, second night of a back-to-back in Denver, and then Utah on the road, I think most people would have said 2-2 if they were trying to predict. And then, of course, 3-1 if you're lucky, if you beat LA or something like that, right? And, hopefully they beat Utah. Like where we're talking about this, there's probably going to be people listening to this after they play Utah. They might lose to Utah. Utah beat the hell out of the Clippers, and then the Clippers beat the Suns. So they're going to be an unpredictable young team that at times could bring it and at times won't. So we'll see what happens in that game, of course. But I do think the most likely outcome was hopefully a win against Sacramento. Like we haven't talked about this, but like if the Suns are competing for a play-in spot, owning the season series against the Sacramento Kings might actually matter at the end of the season. So beating Sacramento when you have the chance to is good, and they did that. But the other 2 games, I think, tough. I will say, though, from an expectations perspective, getting stomped by the Clippers, getting stomped by the Nuggets, would not have felt as bad if they weren't also getting stomped by the Kings before they came back and won that game. It's like a weird psychological thing where, yes, they won that game, but they were also down by 17 and got killed in the first half of that game. And that means that of the entirety of the, I guess 12 quarters that they've played so far, 10 of them they've gotten killed in. And 2 of them they came back in.
Yeah, I don't know about getting killed. I mean, the thing is, they went down in the first half by, I think, 16 or 17 points in all 3 games so far. So they're getting killed in the first halves. They're not necessarily getting killed in the first 5 minutes, though, which I think is an important distinction because often last year it felt like they were.
Yeah.
This year it's a game of runs and various things happen throughout the first half of a game that, I say that because it's not just on the starting 5 here to set the tone of the game. It's also other various rotations and lineup combinations that they're playing throughout the first half. But yeah, it's not a good position to be in, certainly. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think there are a bunch of reasons for it, but I guess I'm curious where you want to start with kind of why, like even if you even qualify it as things that are going wrong through 3 games.
Yeah, I think there are.
What issue number one is to you right now?
I mean, like, let's be frank. The issue number one is that this is a team full of new players that have never played together in any of the lineups that are on the floor, and they're clearly not used to that. And then, truthfully, issue number two, where they've started to really lose control over the game, is the first time Devin Booker checks out of every single one of these games. They cannot generate any offense with him off the floor so far in these games. You know, when he checks back in and they're already down by 20, at times they can't even generate offense when he's on the floor, but it gets particularly bad in those cases. I think the first
I didn't actually look it up. Do you have his plus minus through 3 games?
No, I'm not sure if, I guess cleaning the glass, would they have that? I'm not sure.
I like, honestly, just
I think he was like minus
plus
31.
Minus is fine.
He's, they're getting outscored by about 10 points when he's on the floor in the games anyway, but he's also playing the most minutes. So, you have to factor all of that in. It just starts to go really poorly when he checks out for the first time in these games. And this is no fault, I think, of anyone but, the guys who put the roster together. I mean, like, I hate to do this already, 3 games in, but it's already very obvious how Chris Paul would have helped this team.
I wasn't sure where you were about to go with that. I don't disagree. That's just
I think it's important to point out, he wanted to play on the Suns, and the Suns decided not to sign him. They had the opportunity to sign him to this team, and maybe he got more money in LA. I don't even know what the situation is there, but they chose not to do it, supposedly because of how big of a locker room voice he has and how they were afraid of it sort of butting heads with whatever Jordan Ott was trying to do.
Yeah, and I think they also wanted to sell it, though, as, he's used up defensively, and we know he's small, and they just don't, like, maybe they felt they had room for Colin Gillespie on the roster as one guy like that, who you can sort of pick on a little bit. But otherwise, and this is kind of the big point that I wanted to make of why, like, for me, number one issue so far actually is defense. They're, believe it or not that these numbers matter, but they're 29th in defensive rating through 3 games.
Yeah.
I just... Some people tried to throw that in my face because of my tweet and Matt Ishbia's tweet the other week.
Yeah.
Those numbers don't matter at this point in the season, and they will stabilize. I do truly believe that. But just in terms of why they are giving up so many points through 3 games, and what they said about not wanting to bring in Chris Paul is they said we want the opposite type of roster to this that's big and lanky and long and has a lot of event creation. And then you look at the guys that Jordan Ott is actually playing. Because it is true that the guys who put this team together went out and drafted Kaman Malawach 10th, and went out and drafted Rasheer Fleming 31st, and went out and traded 2 first-round picks for Mark Williams. We know Mark Williams is going to miss time. That's fine. Kaman Malawach isn't, he's playing a little bit. Rasheer Fleming isn't playing unless the game is already over.
Mm-hmm.
Who is playing? It's Royce O'Neal, who's 6'4" at small forward. It's Dylan Brooks, who's 6'6" at power forward. It's Oso Ighodaro, who's 6'10", exclusively at center so far, and some of that is by necessity. But
and Ryan Dunn, who's size of the shooting
Ryan
guard.
Dunn, Ryan Dunn is maybe not the biggest guy. We should have a whole Ryan Dunn.
He's
like
playing
Ryan
well.
Dunn, I think he's been awesome.
He's playing well.
He's one of the few guys over the first few games where I'm like, Ryan Dunn gets it. He fucking gets it. But the rest of these guys, it's like, I understand what Jordan Ott is trying to do. He's trying to give it his all, see if he can compete with other real big NBA teams by just playing the veterans on this team first, always have shooters around Devin Booker, so that because Book is going to get doubled 50 times a game or whatever, that if the ball has energy, it'll find a shooter eventually. And I think Ott is thinking maybe that will make our half-court offense good enough that we can slip away with some of these wins. So far, haven't seen much evidence that the half-court offense, like if you're going to play your best shooters and those are your best shooters, their half-court offense still kind of stinks regardless. So where I'm at through 3 games is that maybe it's already time to introduce, like if you want to have this image of we're young and we're fast and we're athletic, you need to actually play the guys who are young and fast and athletic. And so far, they're not really doing that. So that would be my big point about why they're giving up so many points through 3 games.
It's okay. It's a good point. And they are shooting currently the fourth most 3-pointers per game. of any team in the NBA at essentially 44, basically tied with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't know how many the Cavs shot in the game that just ended. It's probably not included in these stats yet. The reason he's trying to play these veterans is because of just how bogged down the offense is getting. I think it's pretty clear, right? Because what's happening, and I know you're talking about defense, right? And I do want to talk about that as well. But what's happening very clearly, because there's only one player that can shoot, or dribble, I should say, in Devin Booker. Other players can shoot, but they can't dribble. Devin Booker's trying to do what he can. Of course, they're sending two guys at him. The ball is swinging. They're finding shooters in that way. They want the right kind of movement. They want the right kind of read and react style plays in those scenarios. And they trust the veterans to do that, I think. And they probably trust the veterans to play better defense as well, or at least smarter defense. But you're right. I think you know if you're going to try to have a size advantage, try playing two bigs. You know, I don't know if that's something they want to do yet, but they got to try it at some point. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Looking at the schedule, I'm not sure when the next game that they do that. They do play San Antonio on Sunday, November 2nd. So maybe that's the one. They do have the next three games are two Utah games and a
I
Memphis
think they
game.
I think they should totally start 6'10" Oso against Wemby. That will go great.
Yeah, I mean they did it against Jokic.
Actually, Wemby doesn't even start. Wemby doesn't even start at center for the Spurs. So yeah, they're gonna have to get bigger against some of these teams. Yeah, that's for sure.
So maybe they'll try then. But yeah, I do think that just from the perspective of this team is brand new. There's a bunch of new guys, and truthfully, they're missing a very important player when it comes to the ability to dribble. So each of them is playing somewhat of a role that's outside of what their actual expectations are going to be on this team, meaning they're over-leveraged. Dylan Brooks is dribbling too much. Grayson Allen is dribbling too much. Royce O'Neal is running pick and rolls. They're all a little bit over-leveraged with the missing player. They need more guys who can dribble, ultimately. This was a conversation we had with Kellen before the season started. But because they're all over-leveraged like that, I think it's going to be something that happens throughout the season. If they continue to lose games, which they will against good teams, occasionally they'll win. We're hoping about a third of the games, right? That's kind of what we're predicting. Hopefully they win like a third of them, or probably less.
Mm-hmm. They can steal the occasional game against a good team, but only through their defense, I think, which is why, again, I'd want to bring it back to defense at some point. But it's like, if they're expecting their offense to carry them to wins this year, their offense, and we could have told you this 3 months ago, just isn't talented enough. So that's why I think you got to lean on the defensive identity if that's going to be your identity.
I see. I know. Well, I'll come back to that. But actually, let's just stick on that now. This team is missing Jalen Green. Jalen Green's going to make the defense worse. So,
would they be 3-0 with Jared Butler?
Definitely not.
That's the big question.
Yeah, definitely not. We can have a conversation about Colin Gillespie. I think there are times where he looks good and times he looks bad, and that's to be expected, I think.
Sure, yeah.
But Jared Butler, if you're talking about defense, is not going to do anything for you.
I'm just trolling a little bit. Yeah. Jalen Green, go ahead. Jalen Green is very important. I look forward to seeing him hopefully this week. What
I'm seeing, how the Suns are being guarded, I think there's a really important conversation when Devin Booker is on the floor. When Devin Booker is on the floor specifically is an important conversation to have here. The starting lineup has Devin Booker, Ryan Dunn, and Oso Ighodaro, and then the other two guys who can shoot in Grayson Allen and Dylan Brooks. Ryan Dunn is not a scoring threat. Oso Ighodaro is not a scoring threat. So they're trying to put one pass away Grayson Allen or Dylan Brooks from Devin Booker at all times, right? So that when the help comes off of one pass away, it's a shooter who can shoot. Ryan Dunn's in the corner. The way that...
And of course, that's why Oso, even in a game like last night, where Mark Williams is out and you're playing Jokic, the idea behind starting Oso and not Nick Richards was that if the trap comes for Booker, the pass is there to Oso, and you're still one pass away to a 40% three-point shooter, no matter what.
The way that Devin Booker is currently being guarded, it's almost unfair to even call it double teams. It's three guys. There are three guys that are trying to corral Devin Booker right now because of the complete lack of attention that guys like Oso Ighodaro are garnering. They're just completely ignoring him, giving him a bunch of space in the places that he can't score from. And they're bringing help off of Dylan Brooks. They're bringing help off of Grayson Allen with the understanding that wherever Ryan Dunn's man is can scramble and help in that scenario because Ryan Dunn is also not a threat in this case. And they're just daring guys like Dylan Brooks or Grayson Allen to make a play when the ball swings to them. But what that means is those guys, if they're capable, can shoot the three, but if they're capable of driving and getting to the rim, there's a lot of open lanes for them. They're just not capable of that. And this is where I think as much as I have not been the greatest champion of Jalen Green so far, it is very, very, very obvious how not only will Jalen Green provide so much more from a second side perspective when the defense is leveraged against Devin Booker, that when defenses adjust to that, he will also become somewhat of a relief on the way that they're guarding Devin Booker. And beyond that, even Mark Williams, because Mark Williams is a threat to score in places that Oso Ighodaro is not. I think that when we talk about, and this is why I feel like the offense is going to be better than the defense in general, I actually do think that once Jalen Green is there, if the ball swings to him, there's just a massive difference between his speed, his athleticism, his ability to get to the rim and potentially get fouled compared to anyone else on this Suns team. Obviously, he can dribble. That makes the biggest difference. But I do think the amount of attention Devin Booker is receiving right now, it's almost being undersold. And I think everyone sort of understands that he's being double teamed a lot, but like it's just even more than that with Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro in that starting lineup.
Mm-hmm. And you know, Book's sharing the floor with plenty of other guys too. Royce O'Neal is playing more minutes than Ryan Dunn so far this season. And like, again, we got to have the defensive conversation because like, I think that should probably not be happening the way those two guys are playing. But at the same time, I get it. Royce is always a shooter to have on the floor. But then you look at the stats, Royce O'Neal has 23 3-point attempts and two 2-point attempts through 3 games. Yeah. So he's literally just out there on the floor. I mean, that's like Steve Novak levels. Yeah, it's like, I don't even know who to compare it to. 90% of Royce's 3-point attempts are threes. And you say, yeah, he's running a pick and roll. But to what end? You know,
it's almost always. I mean,
he's not a threat to finish at the rim. So he's just taking threes. Taking threes has value, but you're definitely right. Jalen Green's athleticism is sorely needed, as is Mark Williams's. Mark Williams's vertical spacing is going to be huge too if he can play consistently.
I want to come back to Mark Williams when we actually get back on the defensive track. But before that, Jalen Green as well. To me, it's not just the second side stuff. It's also the ability to run a pick and roll himself. There's not a single player on this team, I think, that has the ability of getting Devin Booker an open shot. You know what I mean? Like I talked about this on the playback yesterday when I was doing that as well. Chris Paul, when he was on the Suns, the number one player that he assisted, the player he assisted the most was Devin Booker. Now, of course, Devin Booker shoots the most, so of course he's going to garner that. But like, it helps to have someone that is capable of getting someone like Devin Booker an easy shot every once in a while. The number one player Kevin Durant assisted as well was Devin Booker.
To clarify, you don't mean like through like a screen or whatever. You mean getting Devin Booker an open shot by shifting the defense themselves.
Shifting the defense themselves and passing to him in a way that allows him to occasionally
there's no one
like
who
if
can
there's one player on this team that could get Devin Booker an extra shot every quarter because of their overall gravity, which maybe it's Mark Williams, maybe it's Jalen Green, that would be very helpful to this team's overall offensive scheme, because right now it's difficult shot after difficult shot for Devin Booker, which he's capable of hitting those. He has 31 points in 2 of his 3 games. You know, of all the players that have played 3 games, which there's not a ton of them, he's probably like 5th or 6th in scoring, I think, the last time I looked that up. It's not like he's way behind these guys, but he's not doing any of it in any way that's easy to him. And all the defensive attention that he has racked up a bunch of turnovers. But before we get to that, just one more point on Jalen Green. It's not just the second side pick and roll stuff. It's not just the ability to run a pick and roll himself with some level of athleticism, which, you know, there could be issues with that too if he continues to launch mid-range shots that aren't going in. We'll talk about that bridge when we get there. But it's also in transition. If they are forcing turnovers, which they're doing a pretty good job of that so far this season, Grayson Allen on the break, Royce O'Neal on the break, they'll occasionally score. They're just not that fast. They're just not that athletic. So they're not always getting to the rim first. They're not capable of jumping over defenders. And I think Ryan Dunn, by the way, needs to get a little better at that as well.
There was one play against Denver. Don't remember who he did it to, but Grayson got it on the break. He had a one-on-one. I think maybe it was Peyton Watson coming up from behind, wanted to get a chase down block, and Grayson just hit him with the slow motion,
beautiful,
like, you know, like foot in molasses move as he slowed down on his way to the rim. The Kyle Slow-Mo Anderson move.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. It's like, how do you leverage your lack of athleticism to your advantage? I thought that was awesome.
Beautiful.
Honestly, I think Grayson just overall, I do want to give him props. I think he's been pretty good this week. And, you know, I certainly wouldn't put it on him, these losses. He's attempting. And like, at the same time, everything you're saying is true. Like, Jalen Green is a much more talented player than Grayson Allen. If we could get Jalen Green in the starting lineup instead. And yet Grayson is coming around screens and he's pulling up in the half court from three with confidence. He's making those shots. He is trying to guard up 94 feet, and
he's hustling.
You know, I think he's hustling. I think he's doing a solid job of it. He's not a lockdown defender because he never has been, but I think Grayson's been good. He's not turning the ball over when he's trying to do too much dribbling. So yeah, shout out to Grayson. I have no problems with him in week one, really.
Two of my favorite things are coffee and basketball. You start your morning with coffee every morning, and that means you should treat yourself right in the morning, every morning, to start your day well. The best way to do that is with coffee from Alchemy Roast. Go to alchemyroaster.com and use the promo code Timeline to buy some coffee today. Alchemy Roast is a Metro Phoenix-based coffee roaster that focuses on the transformational process of coffee from seed to cup. They're about more than just coffee. It's about passion, dedication, and community. They're a small batch roastery committed to sourcing the finest beans and mastering the art of the roast, and they do it ethically. I love their coffee. I start my day with it every single morning. I make espresso. You can make pour over. You can make drip coffee. You can make anything with it. Just go to alchemyroaster.com today and use the promo code Timeline. Get 10% off. Support us here at the podcast. Alchemy Roast is the best coffee. That's alchemyroaster.com. Promo code Timeline at checkout. Okay, let's get back on defense. I distracted us from the defensive conversation, so I just have, and we could talk more about Jalen Green too if we have any more reasons to talk about that, because I do think there are ways that he could help this team right away. And in some ways, in some ways it's that the Suns are bad enough that Jalen Green will help them. Do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of a tough thing to say because I do think that a lot of times we're filtering Jalen Green through this conversation of he made the Houston Rockets worse. But the Houston Rockets were a lot better than the Suns. So, like, even without Jalen Green playing, so, like, of course, there's a version of him that does that. But I think there's also a version of him where the Suns are bad enough that he is going to make them better. They just are so desperate for somebody that does some of the things that he's capable of doing. But defensively, okay, so I think this is interesting because we're talking about how Jalen Green could help this team. And then we, of course, shifted to a little bit about how Mark Williams could help this team. But I do just sort of generally think that Oso Ighodaro has been better than Mark Williams defensively so far for this team. Now, I guess my question is, Mark Williams in the starting lineup, which, I don't know, could be as early as the game against Utah on Monday. We're recording this Sunday night, if we didn't say that already. It could be as early as that game that Mark Williams is in the starting lineup. I think defensively, I guess the first question is, and we'll work Mark Williams into this conversation however we want. What do you think is the key for this team to put it together a little bit better defensively?
Yeah, I mean, they need better communication. Obviously, a lot of that comes from playing with each other. But, you know, just in terms of their ability to imprint on the game and, like, you know, force. They need event creation at the end of the day, right? They need steals, they need blocks. This is why, like with Oso, I kind of like would push back on what you're saying about Oso versus Mark Williams on defense so far. Oso's fine. I mean, honestly, he's fine. Can we talk about Jokic real quick as an aside? The only reason Jokic didn't put 40 on Oso's head last night was out of pity.
Almost in the 2 games I've seen him play, it almost looks like he just doesn't feel like playing right now. Jokic, like he wants the offseason to be a few weeks longer. And then he can get 14 assists doing that, of course, but yeah.
He got 14 assists just like on autopilot against the Suns. It wasn't like the Suns they are doubling him in the post, right? But it's not like we're sending 3 guys at Jokic every time so that he has to pass the ball. Jokic could have had 30 to 40 points on Oso Agudaro. He chose to just spray the ball around instead, and they still killed us. That's why that guy's an all-time great. That's why he presents this conundrum like we've never seen from a center before. So just like Jokic is crazy, and it's nothing that Oso is doing to like hold him to 8 shot attempts or whatever, right? Oso has 1 block in 63 minutes. He's got 10 fouls. I agree he's a smart defender. I like the fact that he's scheme versatile and he can come out and guard on the perimeter. We just need to be bigger, man. I would just go back to what I said at the very beginning. We just need to be bigger.
I don't disagree with that. I just don't necessarily think if we're talking about the defense being fixed as part of the problem for the Suns, I think Mark Williams is going to have a much larger impact on the offensive rating and probably more likely in comparison to Oso Agudaro, which is true of the stats now, way too early to say how that's going to be later in the season, a negative impact on the defense compared to Oso Agudaro. Oso Agudaro, the only starter on the Suns with a defensive rating while he's on the court that looks even passable right now, which is 111.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Richards, to your point a little bit, Nick Richards is much bigger than Oso. He's come in and has stunk it up defensively in the minutes
and offensively. So. He's just been awful.
But after we praised him in preseason, too. I know it's small sample sizes everywhere, but it's like, damn.
And preseason bench minutes, I think we need to remember going into every season, particularly the minutes with the benches on the floor, are so inconsequential because so many guys are in and out of the lineups.
Yeah,
but Oso Agudaro, when he's on the floor, it's a 111 defensive rating right now, and like all of these are way too early to look at, but we're gonna look at them more later.
Way too early.
And 125 with Mark Williams on the floor, and truthfully, the thing that gives me pause with Mark Williams is just how bad he was in that Clippers game defensively. He was just out of position every moment he was on the floor, and it's a hard team to guard. And I think the Suns are trying some things defensively with them playing up a little higher, and James Harden is so shifty and so difficult to contain in a pick and roll that, like, I'm not going to fully blame him, but he was really bad in that game in a way that I'm like, oh God, there are teams that are going to pick on him in a way that will be tough. They're going to have to find a way to a good offense together when Mark Williams, Jalen Green, and Devin Booker are on the floor, because I just don't really see a way for
you
the
mean
defense.
A good defense?
No, I mean offense. I think they're going to have to be good offensively because I think the defense is going to struggle.
Yeah, I don't know. I just still think the book is out for me on Mark Williams. I think there's a chance.
No,
he was
sure,
bad in the Clippers game, but it was one game. We're having a conversation about the bigs. What's been flashing even redder lights for me so far is some of this wing play. Again, I mentioned the fact Royce O'Neal has played the 4th most minutes of anyone on this roster so far. And the thing about that is, like, if the Suns are going to be a team that crashes the glass offensively this season, that is great in theory. Jordan knows what I'm about to say, but it needs to come in a way that is not compromising their transition defense. And so far it has. That is just an effort thing, I think, largely, more than a positional thing. Royce O'Neal, I was watching him last night against, today technically because I watched it on replay, but I was watching him against that Denver game and like had my hands in my head with how bad he looked defensively, blowing communication on switches, letting guys get backdoor.
The Aaron Gordon dunk was embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's the stuff to me where it's like, okay, dude, like I get that you're out there because you're a shooter, but if you're not going to be a two-way wing for this team, your minutes can be going to Ryan Dunn or Rasheer Fleming, in my opinion, right now. And I don't care what it does for us offensively if that happens. If the identity is going to be defense, then the identity needs to be defense. We need to see that 1 through 10, every guy in the rotation.
Yes, I will say, though, Jokic and the speed with which Jokic gets the rebound and passes to an outlet passer is really like nothing we've ever seen. It's just absurd. I mean, he'll get a rebound, and that ball is in the hands of a guy that's 3/4 of the way down the court in like a second.
We've seen it once. We've seen it at least once before.
Who do you think it is?
Kevin Love?
Yeah, I don't think that Kevin... I mean, yeah, he's probably the next best guy.
I mean, Jokic is like
Jokic
as a
passing
player
is
way
crazy.
better than Kevin Love, but Kevin Love is like a all-time outlet passer goat.
Yeah, no, he's a great example. But just Jokic, it's just so fast in a way that it just becomes really difficult. There's so many reasons that he's one of the best players of all time, I think, and it's just another example. But like there are versions of players who are really good outlet passers in general, but I think that the speed with which you can recognize that a player is running down the court is the number one skill in outlet passing, and I think in the NBA currently nobody is better than Jokic. By the way, Kevin Love is going to be playing against the Suns tomorrow because he's on the Utah Jazz, if you forgot.
Oh my God, he's on Utah. Is he playing minutes though? No way.
No,
he's not playing.
There was literally, I don't know if you saw this, and for those maybe that missed it, there was a moment of the last Utah Jazz game where the crowd was chanting, "We want love, because he hasn't played yet. And he got up and put his hands over the coach's ears to plug his ears so that he didn't put him in the game. So Kevin Love does not even want to play.
He's always been funny like that. The Utah game, again, I know some people are listening afterwards. It's going to be really interesting. Real quick, I see Ace Bailey is 1 for 10 from the field through 2 games so far, which I think means you can lock him in for 25 against the Suns
100%.
in game 3.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, you'll never know what he's going to do there. I think defensively, I think you're right that so much of the issues are twofold in the lack of communication or like basic understanding of where players are going to be defensively because they haven't played together enough, 1. And 2, they continue to, even though they've talked about being the longest team in the NBA lengthwise, they continue to play small lineups. And the thing about this team defensively is is it a solve? Does it make them better if all of a sudden they're playing, Kaman Malawach and Mark Williams in the starting lineup just because that adds size and length? Probably not. I don't know that it makes the team better overall. It would probably make the defense better to have 2 guys that are massive and long on the floor at all times, at least against bad teams. But I think that is the biggest challenge. And back to, I think, something we were talking about to start this podcast, one of the biggest conversations that's going to be having in and around this team by Suns fans in particular is going to continue to be, if they keep losing, they should play the young guys. And I think that is a fair thing to say. But I think after 3 games, with 2 of them against some of the best teams in the NBA, probably a little too early. You have to give the veterans a chance to earn their minutes. It's not you.
But just to be clear, Royce has been playing 28 minutes a game. I'm not saying he should go from 28 to 0. I'm just saying I'm disappointed by some of the lack of effort I've seen on a few plays from him in this game, again, on the second night of a back-to-back in the hardest place to play in the NBA. And it's like, if that is a pattern, there are hungry guys in the third string who could be taking some of your 28 minutes. That's a lot of minutes. Not only that,
if it's a pattern, it lowers his trade value. Like there was a point I think I DM'd you, I thought, where I said if he's going to play this bad, they better trade him soon, so that maybe he's just cooked. But for him, I think he just looked like he was floating the way he was floating in the second half of last season. Where at the first half of last season, I remember calling Royce the 3rd best Suns player. Yeah, maybe it was a slight against Bradley Beal. that was part of it. But in the second half of the season, particularly post-trade deadline, Royce was awful. It was like he was asleep on the court. And he has to snap out of that if he wants to continue to play minutes on this team. Because I don't know that the Suns, as an organization, if they are true to the identity that they're trying to create, are going to have a lot of sympathy for that. I think they'll either bench him or trade him, and at least if they're actually honest about what they're trying to do as a team. So we'll see what they end up doing there. They really got killed with him on the floor yesterday.
Quick thing on Jordan Ott that I'm curious your thoughts about too, because you were mentioning, just like playing Mark Williams and Malawach together wouldn't necessarily make things better. I 100% agree, but I do think Ott is already showing a willingness with his lineups. Like he he knows that they have to figure it out somehow, and he knows that he's going to have to, with the players he has, throw stuff at the wall a little bit and see what sticks. And he hasn't done anything like super crazy, but like I liked the fact that Nigel Hayes-Davis played a few minutes at center yesterday. Mm-hmm. You know, as much as we're talking about they need to get bigger, there was a certain point in the Denver game where Jokic was on the bench, Valanciunas was on the floor. We've also said that like now that Valanciunas is there, it's just harder to like go on runs against Denver in the 10 minutes that Jokic doesn't play. In the way that was often pretty easy in the past if you were going against like DeAndre Jordan or whoever. Mm-hmm. It's just not easy like that anymore. Valanciunas is a much more solid player. But I thought it didn't pay off, but I thought it was a solid gamble to open up the fourth quarter on Jordan Ott's part to say, hey, Nigel Hayes-Davis, you're going to play center. We're going to see if somehow we can work some advantages, find a way to work an advantage against a bigger unit.
So it didn't pay off because the Suns weren't hitting shots, though. It really wasn't because the Suns were playing poor defense. Because when the Suns were daring them to play through Valanciunas played kind of poorly in those minutes. It wasn't until Jamal Murray came on and hit 5 quick points that the Suns pulled the plug. If the Suns had made shots on the other side of that, which they just weren't doing, even though they were getting open shots, which, you know, second night of the back-to-back at altitude, maybe that's why. But if they were making shots at the other end of that, that kind of would have worked. Which, you know, it was entirely designed to say, okay, you believe in Valanciunas this much, play through him then. Don't play through anyone else, play through him. And
I also think it was maybe trying, you know, like if we want to have a really quick conversation about Nigel Hayes-Davis, I know he's like the 9th or 10th most minutes on the team, so I won't get too deep into it, but I think Ott is trying to instill some confidence in him as a guy who he knows is making that really difficult adjustment from the EuroLeague, where he was a top tier player, to the NBA, where he doesn't know what his role is right now because the Suns aren't really trying to open him up offensively in the way that, you know, Fenerbahce would have in EuroLeague. And I think Ott playing him a few minutes at center was a way of trying to be like, okay, let's make sure you're not just fading into the background and doing nothing except taking corner threes and getting cardio for 10 minutes. And like, honestly, I don't know what the end goal, the end result of the Hayes-Davis experiment is going to be. But, like, I'm not giving up on the guy yet. I can see the talent, and I've seen a couple of shots where he, like, throws up a pump fake, you know, touches the paint, throws up a floater, and actually scores inside of the arc. And that's the stuff where it's like, can we find a way to tap into more of his scoring juice somehow? I think that's what Ott was thinking when he put him at center, and, you know, maybe we'll continue to see a little bit more of it.
Well, he needs to.
They got to find a way for him to separate himself from just, like, generic, nondescript NBA wing.
He needs to be a little more confident in his own offense then if he wants to be that guy. Because right now I will say he is by far number one for guys who are going to lose minutes when Jalen Green's back. You know, it's for sure going to be him. And then, you know, Grayson Allen will probably play a little less and maybe Colin Gillespie.
Gillespie will play a little less, yeah.
Yeah, but like it's pretty clear that everyone else that has played so far, at least the regular rotation guys, off the bench, we're talking Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, Colin Gillespie. And then, you know, we can have a conversation about the centers that should play, you know, but like Nigel Hayes-Davis is going to be the guy that loses those minutes. And, yeah, he really has not been great in any game yet. But I also think, I don't know, like, did they bring him here to be this miscast? I'm talking about how many guys are miscast on this team right now because they're not falling into place with their roles without another guy who can be an offensive engine. Nigel Hayes-Davis is like, you know, I thought he would be, maybe he could be the guy that could be a little bit of an offensive engine. And really what they're asking him to do is be like a poor man's Dylan Brooks. And that's just kind of a tough thing to be. And by the way, Dylan Brooks, no fear to be another guy dribbling, even if he's not done the best job of it so far. By the way, can Dylan Brooks pass on a drive? Is that possible?
No.
Like, can he ever look for another guy on a drive? I don't mind him even driving if he could just pay attention to shooters when he does it.
Dude, this is the existential problem with this offense, right? So, like, let's talk about Devin Booker a little bit more, too, and his role in this. I think Book's been good through 3 games. I understand it's never going to be easy. Like, we open up this episode by saying there's not a single other player, until Jalen Green plays at least maybe, that can shift a defense independently by themselves and create an open shot for Devin Booker right now, right? That is the battle that Devin Booker is facing. He's facing, these shifted defenses against him, almost as if he's playing his own zone, his own box and one. And yet, Devin Booker, I know you're unselfish. You got to force it a little bit more. You got to. Because if you don't take the bad shots, Dillon Brooks is there to take all of the bad shots.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I know if Dillon Brooks takes a bad shot, that's has a 25% chance of going in. It's basically a turnover. If Devin Booker takes a bad shot, that might be a 40% shot, right? Like he can still make a lot of those. I don't care if Book's efficiency goes down this season, but to a certain extent, like in an ideal world, we have a clean offense where we're generating open looks for players all the time, but that's just not going to be the Suns' offense this year. And Devin Booker needs to be taking more of the bad shots to prevent those same shots from going to Dillon Brooks to try and keep our offense, up a little bit.
Like, okay, I agree with you. I think there is like the ball swings. Dillon Brooks catches it with 6 seconds left on the shot clock. At that point, it's just like we have to live with what we can get. When Devin Booker is driving into the paint or into the mid-range area, he's jumping up in the air and then trying to pass. That should be a shot.
Terrible.
That should be a shot.
Terrible. And
like
let me pull out the drive statistics.
I can't get too mad at Dillon Brooks when there's 6, or even Devin Booker when there's 6 seconds left on the shot clock. They're doing the things that often generate open 3-pointers for them, but sometimes they don't because the other team plays good enough defense to counter that, and then Dillon Brooks catches it. If at that point there are like 6 seconds left and they're trying desperately to get it to Devin Booker, the other team's just going to overplay the passing lanes, get a turnover, and then get a fast break point on the other end. At that point, Dillon Brooks kind of has to be the guy to shoot it. So it is what it is.
Yeah,
hopefully that's Jalen Green.
If you have to shoot it in that situation, fine. But
when you're on the move and you're driving, yes. And
the drive thing is real.
Yes.
And let me just prove, because some people are like, oh, it's because he's being forced to be the point guard again. He shouldn't be the point guard. Let me just prove based on last year's statistics that that's not what's going on here with Devin Booker. Last year, when the Suns had a point guard, technically they brought in Tyus Jones to play next to him. And Devin Booker and Jalen Green, actually both, ranked top 15 in the NBA in total drives. Of those 15 players, Jalen Green was the second least likely to pass on a drive of the 15 highest usage guys. So more help is coming, to your point, Mike. Another volume shooter is coming who will drive the ball a lot and who will shoot on those drives.
Yeah, and truthfully, everyone just stood around in Houston too, so like there is a possibility that
didn't
gets
have anyone
better.
to pass to.
Yeah.
But the only guy who passed less than him out of those top 15, again, so these are only the high volume drivers. I was actually surprised by this. Cade Cunningham was 15th out of 15.
Cade also averaging like 6 turnovers a game, like Devin Booker right now.
Book was the third most likely to pass on a drive last season when the Suns had a point guard, after only TJ McConnell and Kobe White. Book passed on 46% of his drives. There's nothing wrong with being an unselfish player, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to set the table, wanting to find open shooters. Like, we've always known that shooters benefit from playing next to Devin Booker. In theory, it's a good thing. But also, the team structure is different now, and I need 2018 Devin Booker back a little bit.
Well, see, okay.
I need a little bit of the unselfishness back.
I think, okay. And you said 2018. I just think that it's important to note that team was bad and they were not really trying to be good. And I think there is just a little bit different of an attitude from Devin Booker when it comes to that, because to get to a good team offense for this team, everyone has to be in the places Devin Booker expects them to be when he drives, and everyone has to be ready to shoot from the positions when they catch those passes. So, and this happened, by the way, every single time they've made massive changes in Devin Booker's career for the team, he's started out with more turnovers, and he expects guys to be in places that they're not. So I do think that in order for this team to be good, he has to make those passes from drives at times. But it's to be expected, I think, that at the beginning of this particular season, there's going to be a little bit of a rocky period where guys aren't where they're supposed to be. Devin Booker's passing to spots or passing into guys that are just turning into turnovers. But I still think that is not to say that he shouldn't shoot more. He needs to shoot more at times. And I just think that it's going to look a little bit different when there's not three guys in every single driving lane for him, which truthfully, when they play worse teams, there's not going to be three guys because it's hard to play good team defense if you don't have good, smart, and long defenders to play on the ball at that much. So there is a difficult balance I think that they need to strike, because I think there's a difference between Devin Booker 2018, shoot all you want, get the stats that you want because there's no path to a good team offense. This year, maybe there's no path to a good team offense, but maybe there is a path to get to that 35 wins or whatever you and I have been anticipating, and you have to find and strike that right balance. Overall, I think it's going to be somewhat of a conversation. And truthfully, I've mentioned this in the offseason. I feel for Devin Booker in some ways because I think no matter what, there will be fans, I think, that had higher expectations for this team than even if they win what you and I have anticipated or predicted that we think they could win this year. And there's only one guy that's going to take that blame. And that blame is going to be shifted towards Devin Booker. And that's tough.
I don't know. I mean, that's what the money's for, to quote Don Draper, right? Like there's a bunch of players, though,
that's how it works
on this roster, I think, who are going to take the blame.
But it's are any of them overpaid?
If they fall short.
You know, like
I don't know.
There's no Bradley
Beal
to
that yet.
I guess you know what I mean.
Right? Yeah. The season hasn't happened yet, so we don't really know the answer to that question.
True.
We're gonna find out soon.
Yeah. Hopefully not. Who else do you want to talk about so far this season? We've talked about, you mentioned Nick Richards being bad. Like, he's the one guy that I'm like, how far away are we from just giving those minutes to come on? I guess if Mark Williams starts, it's just going to be Mark Williams, Oso Ighodaro. Like, they're playing three centers right now because Mark Williams is on a minutes restriction when he plays as well. So that's part of it. But, like, how far are we away from just making sure Kaman Malawach plays at least 10 minutes a game or something, right?
Couple weeks. Yeah. Kaman's been fine in his minutes so far. It's just like he's played 17 total minutes and 12 of those have been garbage time. So it's like, I don't know what to make of, like, what's real. I thought it was nice of Jordan Ott to give, like, 2 minutes to come on in the Denver game where he was actually going up against Jokic, just so he could feel the intensity of that matchup. I think he wasn't just matching all of Jokic's minutes with someone else, which maybe he would have done if Mark Williams was there. I don't know. Although even then, Mark Williams wouldn't have been capable of like playing 35 minutes against Jokic, right? So they would have had to mix and match. They're going to bring Kaman along slowly, but if Nick Richards continues to not impress, I think it'll be a few weeks. Oso, if I could just say a little bit more about him. Just the biggest tease in the NBA, maybe. The way that, there is a play against Jokic where he brought Jokic out to the three-point line and then drove on him. Legitimately taking advantage of the fact that this guy has slow foot speed, gets a full step past him, takes a hit on the shoulder. Did they rule it a flagrant? I don't even remember. I think they ruled it a flagrant one.
He hit him hard.
Which I mean, I guess Jokic flagrants people all the time. So I don't know, maybe.
And then he acted like a little baby afterwards too.
Jokic always acts. I mean, like I say, all-time great, and I think he's just like so. Other than Wemby right now, which like, oh my God, Jokic is the guy after him who continues to just make your jaw drop when you watch him play.
Yeah, we'll talk about him too, actually.
Like, you go to all that effort. You drive on a guy, you create the advantage, you get to the free throw line, your hard-earned points, and then bricks both free throws. Yeah. And he's 2 for 6 now from the free throw line. I know that's a small sample size.
And that was an important moment too. I think there was some momentum on the Suns' side at that point of the game, and had they hit 2 free throws and then hit a 3 or something afterwards, they would have had significant momentum. And I understand momentum is quote unquote myth. I don't really believe that the way some of these analytics guys do, but I really think hitting those free throws would have helped a lot. in that scenario. You're right. I just feel as though Oso Ighodaro, it's the conversation with him, man. We know what it is. He has to find a way to be a scoring threat. He has to. There has not been enough of the assists and passing from him to justify him being on the floor.
Right. I mean, we know he can move the ball side to side and make good decisions, but
he's also been really good on the perimeter as a defender. I know we talked about his defense, but I really think he's been really good on the perimeter.
Yeah.
The only guy I felt confident guarding Kawhi. Isn't that weird to say?
That is weird to say. Yeah. That is weird to say. I don't know. I think I wanted to bring him up again, actually, because the other guy we haven't talked enough about here is Ryan Dunn and how good Ryan Dunn has been.
Yes, I'm glad you brought it back.
And I would say I think Oso's getting minutes because he has to right now and not necessarily because he's been good. Ryan Dunn, play Ryan Dunn more minutes. That's guy number. Before we even get to, giving Rasheer Fleming minutes and Malawach and those guys, reward Ryan Dunn with more minutes.
Yeah.
He's playing 20 right now. He could play 30. I mean, he has to stay out of foul trouble in order to do it.
Well, yes.
And he has to make threes. I know.
No.
He has 10.
Even if he continues,
he has 10 offensive rebounds. He has 10 offensive rebounds in 3 games.
Even at the rate he's hitting his threes, he's still beneficial because of the way he's getting offensive rebounds. But I also think that when Jalen Green comes back, having another offensive threat on the floor will allow you to play Ryan Dunn more. The offense gets so bogged down with Ryan and Oso on the floor, they're putting Royce in just to be like a relief type player for Devin Booker to give him a little bit more space on the drive. And, Jalen Green could potentially be a guy who makes that big of a difference and allows Ryan Dunn to play 30 minutes instead of 25 or whatever. But yeah, he needs to play more. His defense has also been really good. I still think he gets a little too caught up on screens. I don't know if there's a way to fix that. I don't know. Maybe that's just who he is. But he's done a good job with help defense. He's done a good job blocking shot. Had an incredible block against Tim Hardaway Jr. In the Nuggets game. If you haven't seen that one, look up the highlights of that one. It was awesome.
That was a help block, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, because there was just a drive to the rim and he got there. Also had a chase down block in the Clippers game that was awesome too. I forget who it was on, but has just been really, really solid. Great cuts as well. That is the type of thing that would be benefited by more spacing as well, but has been a really good cutter at times. But, he's doing the things to generate additional possessions or to stop scores by himself that are going to keep him on the floor. And if he keeps doing those things, he's going to play more minutes. I'm pretty confident in that. Like, I understand why. First of all, they closed with Royce O'Neal over him in the first game of the season. They've closed the second quarter, at the very least, when the game still mattered, in the Denver Nuggets and Clippers games with Royce O'Neal over Ryan Dunn as well. But I think there will be times where he becomes somewhat better. I talked about this concept, by the way, on our playback, but Rob Mahoney was on the low post. I'm just going to keep calling it the low post, the Zach Lowe podcast for The Ringer. And he brought...
The Low Show. Yeah. The generic store-bought version of the low post, yeah.
He brought up the concept of Dyson Daniels as a closer, a defending closer, like a closer, a clutch defender, I think is what he called it. So like a defender at the end of the game whose defense is ramped up in a way that you become clutch, but on the defensive side of the ball, which I just love the concept of a clutch defender. I think Dyson Daniels is such a great example of that. He's a good defender all game, but at the end of the game, he's just such a threat to steal the ball, especially when the whistles get swallowed a little bit more towards the end of the game. And then in the Suns' time, Mikal Bridges was that so often for the team. There are probably games that you can think of at times with Mikal Bridges doing that. I would love if Ryan Dunn could do that, but he's not getting the minutes to close games. He's not getting minutes to be in clutch time. But if he starts to be in those minutes, he needs to ramp up his effort and his intensity in order to do that kind of thing. And by the way, another thing that would help him to get more minutes is fouling less, because he does foul a lot still. He fouled a lot last season.
Yeah.
But I do think maybe...
That's why it was the first thing I said. It's like I would love for him to be rewarded with, up to 30 minutes a game right now, but actually he needs to get out of his own way there too.
Yes, exactly.
With the foul trouble.
Colin Gillespie, we haven't talked about much now either. I think Colin Gillespie, to continue part of our conversation about him from even game one or the preseason, with him, so much will be about his consistency of when he plays well. I do think he has ramped up his defensive intensity from last year a little bit more already this year. But, there's just times on the floor where he looks good and times where he looks bad. And this is a player who's technically not as young as somebody in his position would normally be as far as the amount of NBA games he's played. But he hasn't played a lot of NBA games, especially in important minutes with what he's playing so far. But I will say this,
if you include games in important minutes for Colin Gillespie, then he's played maybe 12 of those.
Exactly.
And he's basically a rookie.
It's what's so hard about the position that he's put in is Devin Booker comes out, Colin Gillespie comes in, and there's no Jalen Green. So, they're playing minutes with some version of Colin Gillespie, Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, Nigel Hayes-Davis, and, Mark Williams if you're lucky. And then they're like, all right, Colin, generate offense. Mm-hmm. It's like, how do you even do that?
I think he's done a good job, honestly. I would go so far as to say he has done a good job of generating offense, given that is what he's working with.
Yeah.
But it's just a losing position, I think. He's coming around screens. He's shooting threes. He's shooting deep threes. He's keeping his dribble alive constantly and trying to prod and look for guys. And, he's turned the ball over a couple extra times, and I think we saw from him last year. But what's around him?
Yeah.
Not much.
Something to think about. If the Suns are playing Devin Booker and Jalen Green, one of those two when they're healthy on the floor at all times, who or what kind of player would be really beneficial to have offensively on this bench? I'm not going to make you answer that now because I think it's something that I haven't even thought about. But, if they can add a player in a trade...
Probably Kyle Kuzma, yeah.
Probably. That's a starter.
That was a complete joke. I can't believe that you were just like, yup, to my ears.
He would definitely start
Kyle
on this team.
Kuzma,
He would definitely start on
okay.
this team. I mean, I hate to say it, but he definitely would. But, trying to think about a player that would be willing to come off the bench that could just eat some level of usage for this team to help them to generate offense, trying to think of that kind of player.
You want me to really piss you off?
Sure.
I mean, that was the idea behind Jonathan Kuminga.
Well, yes.
That's where the Jonathan Kuminga interest.
He's also starting, though. I'm talking about a guy that would be willing to come off the bench.
Right. And Jonathan Kuminga wanted $25 or $30 million a year or whatever.
Yeah, on this team, if he wants those...
We had that whole
If he wants those minutes where he's the number one option, it would very obviously be in the minutes with Devin Booker off the floor for this team. So, I understand that, too. He's had a good start to the season, too. Maybe the Suns will be sort of vindicated in their approach on Jonathan Kuminga if he continues to play the way he has to start this season. But it's just they're missing someone offensively on the bench, and I don't even think that is fully solved just with Jalen Green being back. Obviously, he helps a lot, but I do think they need... I guess it would be Grayson Allen moving to the bench and trying to be that guy coming off the bench.
Could be Kobe Brea.
Yeah, could be.
Could be Kobe Brea.
It's not a bad...
You never know.
It's just like we're talking really about a forward or a center that could generate offense.
Right.
And I don't know. Malawatch, maybe he'll be that guy by the end of the season.
I want to stress, I know they're 1-2, but I want to stress they played two hard teams this weekend. And I often still felt like fun basketball was being played, even when they were getting the lights beaten out of them. Mm-hmm. They've got a long way to go, but I just don't want this to be a season where we're constantly talking about trades every week.
Yeah, well,
maybe the threat of it will be there at some point. I think you mentioned Royce O'Neal's trade value once on this episode, but I would like if we could challenge ourselves to not get there for a little while.
Victor Wembanyama. Do you know how many blocks he's averaging currently?
He had 9 in that one game he played today. They played today?
Yeah, I don't know if... Yeah, I think they've only played 3 games. So I think, this is all 3 of his games.
Okay.
6.
Yeah, so 18 blocks
so
in 3 games.
He's essentially averaging 33 points and 6 blocks. And
the Spurs are 3-0.
And they're 3-0. We've never seen anything like this, dude.
No, we haven't. We straight up.
I think. Look, maybe you're one of those.
I mean, people. I guess if anyone who listens to this pod was alive to see Wilt, then by all means, raise your hands and
sure,
step forward. What Wemby is doing right now is probably the closest thing, anyone has seen since Wilt Chamberlain in the 50s. Legitimately.
Yes, yeah.
Like, that's how crazy it is. Some of these highlights.
I watched some of the game today. I watched them play again. I think I've watched some of every game he's played so far. And every single game has something where you just go, what the hell, man? Like, what are we going to do? What are we, as a league, I'm not talking about the Suns, I mean the rest of the NBA going to do about this? Because it is... He came back this season. Not only is he so much better than last season already, he's also more fun. Like, he's weirdly more marketable. He's got like Kyrie Irving's bag somehow. He's dribbling the ball in a way that it just does not seem like it should be possible for a player at his size to be capable of doing. He's also not shooting 9 threes a game like he did last season, which I still think was good for his overall development. He's doing so much from the mid-range. He's doing so much with the ball to get to his spots at the rim. It's insane.
It's so weird. He's taken like 5 threes through 3 games. And last year he was taking audacious. 9 of them a game.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
He's crazy. He had a play today where he blocked a shot and then hit a pull-up 3 in a 2-for-1 with 33 seconds on the clock, and he shot from like 30 feet and swished it. I mean, if you're going to block, you have the confidence to shoot a pull-up 3 in a 2-for-1 and you swish it, and you're 7'7" or whatever he's going to be. I just don't know what you do when he has that level of ball control at his size. It really is
right, as long as he stays healthy, because obviously they have to build the whole system and infrastructure around him, so it's always going to depend on that to an extent. He's also just like, not that I know him personally, but he seems like a genuine, down to earth, lovely individual.
Yeah, doesn't it
like,
suck that he's French?
It just I don't have the beef with the French that you do. It just sucks.
I don't have a beef with them. I'm just like,
I think you do. I think I sense it coming out a little bit. Greg, where's Greg? We have one French patron.
I'm just saying, I'm watching the Olympics.
You'll find our token individual from each European country.
I'm enjoying rooting for America winning every gold medal. I'm just saying, like, and I don't know about that anymore.
It sucks that he's a Spur.
Yes, that part
sucks that he's a Spur. It really does.
I know, like, it's just shifting the conversation over to him. It's just, I just watched him play again today, and it's just one of those things where I'm having trouble fully comprehending what we're seeing. Anything else stand out from you so far in the NBA? I know you haven't watched a ton of games yet.
I had a busy week. Other than the Suns games this weekend, I didn't watch any other NBA games
SGA
this weekend.
Here's some
I will try and
stuff for
catch
you.
up.
SGA in 3 games is averaging 40 points a game. Luka Doncic in 3 games is averaging 46 points a game.
He's out for a week, though, Luka.
Out for a week. Well, like the Lakers, if I'm talking about something that stood out to me, I think the Lakers are going to be bad. I don't like the fact that it's taken what it's taken for them to get to be 1-1. I guess they played 2 games, so I'm wrong about that. To be 1-1, for him to score 46 points a game in those 2 games on averaging, and that's what it took to get them to 1-1. And LeBron's going to miss time. They don't have a good defense. They're going to be relying on DeAndre Ayton quite a bit. I just don't understand how that team's going to be good. I think they're going to be significantly worse than people anticipate. And the amount of, what it took for Luka Doncic to keep them in those games is probably why he's hurt right now.
Mm-hmm. Can I just, before we leave?
Yeah.
6 teams. And I need to watch more games. I'm going to do that this week.
You just hate watching the Rockets only. Is that the problem?
6 teams are winless. 6 teams. Do you know the 6? If I put you to the test?
No. I know the Rockets are one of them. That's all I know.
Okay, here are the ones that aren't surprising. Brooklyn. Indiana.
Brooklyn, the only team in the NBA with a worse defense than the Suns so far, by the way. So shout out to Brooklyn.
Shout out to Brooklyn, for
Keeping
sure.
Matt Ishbia's bet alive.
I met a Brooklyn Nets fan at a Halloween party last night. And yes, I'm celebrating Halloween 2 weekends in a row. And poor bastard. I was like, so why the Nets? Keep in mind, I'm in the part of New York. I have to remind people of this sometimes. I'm not in like Brooklyn. I'm in the part of New York State that's closer to Toronto than it is to New York City. So I said, why the Nets? And he was like, well, I started following basketball like, God, what was this, 10 years ago now, when the Nets had like D'Angelo Russell and Jarrett Allen and I don't know who else was on that team.
The Kenny Atkinson team. That team was fun.
Yeah, he was like, that was a really fun team.
It was a fun team. I agree with him. Yeah.
And I was like, you poor bastard. That's the team. Because for me, it was like the 7 seconds or less Suns are why I started following the Suns. Imagine being like all due respect to this guy, he was lovely. You know, we had a great time. But
are you afraid he's listening?
Being
now?
like, no, he wouldn't be. But being like the 43 and 39 Nets with D'Angelo Russell are the reason I watch basketball today. That's tough, man. That's really tough. Anyway, so the Nets are 0-3. The Pacers are 0-3. The Pelicans, not super surprising. The Dallas Mavericks. The Houston Rockets.
Oh, I think I know the last one.
And the last one, the Boston Celtics, also 0-3.
Yeah.
I kind of am relishing that one a little
Detroit beat them today, right?
Detroit did a couple hours ago.
Yeah, Detroit's struggled so far this season too. To see them playing sort of kind of badly and still capable of beating the Boston Celtics, I think tough, man. That team is not going to be good, which we said, you know, and you smartly bet on it. That's going to be tough. Next week, the Phoenix Suns play the Utah Jazz Monday.
Twice, yeah.
The Memphis Grizzlies Wednesday. The Utah Jazz again on Friday. These two of those are at home, the Memphis and Utah games, the second one. And then the San Antonio Spurs on Sunday, November 2nd. We'll try to get one of those on playback. Yeah, we haven't planned it yet, but Sam and I will figure out which one of those games will be a good time to do it. Friday, by the way, is Halloween. They have a chance, right? They have a chance to win two or three of these games. I'll say it like that.
Certainly in the Utah games. I'm curious about Memphis. Haven't caught them or even really heard anything about them.
Me neither. I haven't watched any.
So far.
I've seen some Ja highlights, and he looks like Ja.
Okay.
So,
all right, bring it on.
Yeah, Ryan Dunn's probably going to get that, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to have Dylan Brooks on him, I assume. So, not the most equipped team to deal with those two guys, but also not the worst case as far as defensively against them. I think that what'll be interesting is if Mark Williams is in the game against Memphis, how he's going to be capable of containing. We'll probably record a Patreon podcast Thursday, I'm guessing, after that Memphis game. Hopefully Memphis will be the game that Jalen Green plays, the first game that Jalen Green plays.
Oh, you know, I'm realizing the one thing I did hear about Memphis, Cedric Coward.
Has been really good. Yeah, no surprise
really
there.
Rookie. Yeah.
I mean, we were pretty in on the idea of Cedric Coward, but they were smart in the fact that they took him pretty high. So yeah, we'll be back after that Memphis game, talking about that on our Patreon. If you want to join, patreon.com/thetimeline. And then, of course, after the San Antonio game, probably recording Monday, we'll be back to talk about this entire week, and hopefully the Suns maybe even have at least their 500 or possibly over 500. I hate to put that on him, but it'd be nice to see him get some wins this week. It'd be fun to come back and talk about that. If you're going to be at those home games, make some noise for this team. Hopefully that'll help them out. Anything else before we go, Sam?
I think that covers it, but talk to you guys soon. Hopefully they get a couple wins.